What's up, everybody? Welcome back to No Counters, No Combos, and today I'm going to be bringing you my deck profile that I used to go top 8 at my Colossal Warfare release event at my local shop. And as you can see from the cards I showed you, I was able to get the top 8 prizing. So I use Lord Slug as my leader. Great card, front side, take a life to give it critical, which is really good because it could put pressure on your opponent. Then you awaken, draw 2 cards, and on the back side, you swing, draw a card, and also you can discard a card from your hand to force your opponent to discard 1 card from their hand as well. So it's really good. It has a lot of utility on the front side. It's very aggressive with the critical, taking away card advantage from your opponent. And then on the back side, it kind of does a similar thing where you can pitch a card from your hand to have your opponent discard. So we're going to get right into the deck. I'm pretty sure you guys are going to like it. I'm just going to put Lord Slug off to the side here. You're going to see why I choose this leader, or why I chose this leader specifically. So first card we're using is Vassal, Demon Vassal Symbol. It's a 1-drop blocker. I believe this format 1-drop blockers are going to be super good. So just being able to play this guy for 1, essentially it's like a pseudo negate if your opponent's not playing removal. So it can save you from all these aggro, Harudagarn, Trunks decks. You just throw this blocker out there. You can kind of calculate yourself, safe for the next turn or so. Worst case scenario, it's a free 5k combo, and you can use it for chargeable green energy. I believe blockers in general are going to be really good, so I like using Symbol in this deck. Next, we're going to get into probably my favorite card in the deck, which is the newfound power Son Gohan. Basically, this is my kind of like one of my threats, I guess you can say. For 1 energy, you take a life. It gains 15. Gains 10k in critical, so it becomes a 15k crit swing, which is pretty devastating late game. It helps self awaken early if I need it. But I really like this card. It's a Gohan card. Everybody knows I'm a huge Gohan fan, so I'm always gonna play some type of Gohan card in my deck. So I really look forward to you guys using it as well. It's a really good card. And finally, we're going to actually show what archetype we're running. And yes, we're running Maidens. So I'm using Zarbuto here. Zarbuto is essentially a tutor for the Universe 2. You play him for 1 energy, look at the top 3, add a Universe 2 to hand. And it's really good because it filters through your deck and grabs you your Maidens. You're not playing all Universe 2 targets, so you can whiff, but it doesn't really happen too often. And I'll explain as to why I chose to run Maidens with this leader as we get further and further into the deck profile. So I chose to use Zarbuto here because he's pretty much, essentially is my tutor for my Maidens to add to my hand. So there's really no drawbacks in playing him. Next we have 2 Brienne de Chateau. She's basically like your main card. You're going to play her for 2 energy, look at top 7 to add a Maiden. So you have Kakunsa herself, the Big Mama Brienne, or Rosie, and she's got barrier, so she's not going anywhere, which is great, especially early game. So you can just have her sit there, and then you can use her to evolve, Big Mama on top of her. So that's essentially what you want to do turn 2. And then we have the free blocker here, Rabanra. Blockers are great. Free blockers are even better this format. You can just drop them down there. When you have another Universe 2 on board, and even though it is a blocker, it can be a pseudo threat, because if you combo enough into a blocker, it can do damage, especially late game when you're trying to go in for lethal. But I do like using the free blockers because it's a pseudo negate, so it guarantees you safety moving into the further turns of the game. So that's what you definitely want to get to the later turns. Then we have the Namekian duo Sunel. He's basically the super combo of the deck. The reason I like him is because you can use him at 5. So in this deck specifically, it's really beneficial to play defense on 5. So you can self-awaken, gain crit, swing, and then awaken and draw 2 cards, and then have your opponent discard. So potentially you're negging them 2 cards. Then we have 4 of the Maiden Squadron Rosie. She's really good. 20k blocker. When her, Kakunsa, and Ribrianne are on the field, she gains the ability to be able to, reactivate or put herself in active mode at the end of the turn. It's very important to make sure that you protect your Maidens and that you have them on board at the same time. So I'm sure you guys all know what we're going to get into next, but for those of you that don't know what the Maidens do, the next 4 cards are Kakunsa. She's the other Maiden. They're a trio, essentially. You have Ribrianne, you have Kakunsa, and you have Rosie. She's your more aggressive Maiden. She has critical as her key skill, but when the other 2 are on board, she gains dual attack. So she's a 20k dual attacker with crit when her other 2 partners are on board. And, you can swing for a lot of damage and a lot of pressure with this card. So I love playing Maidens. So we're going to get right into the bread and butter, essentially, of this deck, which, in my opinion, is a better threat than any other deck can offer you. And the reason why is because Big Mama Ribrianne here, she evolves over the Brienne for 3 energy. So she's a 5-drop, and she evolves for 3 energy, and she has Barrier. Now, what makes her good is that when her other 2 partners are on board and she attacks, her auto activates, which allows you to take 2 cards out of your opponent's hand. And she can attack anybody on the board, leader, battle card, whatever. Even if the attack is negated, her auto's still going through. So they're losing 2 cards no matter what. And she's got Barrier, so she's very tough to get around. She's a very, very good card. And then next we have 4 of the Furthering Destruction Champa. Right now, this card's a staple pretty much in the meta. Like, being able to swing for lethal at essentially any point in the game when your opponent has 2 life is crazy. So in this deck, because of all the critical, I definitely want to capitalize on that and not give my opponent hand advantage. So I don't mind playing 4 because I can use him early with the leader or with the 1-drop Gohan. Very, very good card. Pick him up while you can. Next, we have March of the Great Maidens, is what I like to call it. One of my teammates, Enrique, he really gets ticked off when I say that, but this to me is a better March. You play it for 4, and you get to bring 2 Maidens from the drop area on board. So essentially, you want to get Rosie and Kakunsa in the grave or in the drop so you can bring them out with Maiden Transformation while you have a Ribrianne on board, and that's what lets you start plussing off of your autos and your abilities. Next, we're playing 3 full power energy. So I like full power energy this format because a lot of decks are playing with these 1-drop aggro cards. So essentially, if you play a full power energy, if you have access to green, you should be playing this card because it stops their turns. So they won't be able to flute the card back and then just start going on and continuing from there. So if you stop that 1 negate, or if you negate the attack and get rid of that 1-drop, you're going to put them back a turn. And that's what you need to do. You just need to survive. Once you get past the later game, you'll be alright. The next card we have is 3 Sacrifice. This is going to round off the deck. It's my last extra card. I'm playing 6 negates in this deck and 8 blockers. So essentially I'm playing 14 negates, if you want to look at it that way. The reason I like Sacrifice is because you're tapping out a lot in this deck. So every turn on curve, you're tapping out for something. So Sacrifice allows you to get that free negate while awakening. So it saves you, but it also progresses your game state. It can be tricky using it later in the game, but it's very, very good because it gives you the versatility and the fearlessness of tapping out because you don't have the training wheels like SS3 that's going to untap your 3 energy at the end of the turn. So that's pretty much it for the deck, guys. Like I said, I was able to top 8 for the Colossal Warfare release tournament. In hindsight, I think this deck is still a couple cards away. Maybe I'm not using the right leader, or maybe I just need to tweak the build a little bit just to speed it up. Everybody just keeps saying just use SS3, just use SS3, but I kind of just don't want to go that route. But I can see why SS3 with this deck specifically would be very good because essentially you're playing your cards for 3 less energy every turn. So you're playing Maiden Transformation for 1 energy essentially, which is amazing. And then it untaps your energies and allows you to play defense. But don't sleep on Maidens. Don't sleep on Slug. Slug's a very, very aggressive leader. If built properly, I can see him doing a lot of damage because he's a green Vegeta essentially, and green has a lot of powerful cards because they play board wipes and removal, and they play hand destruction. So just think outside the box, be as creative as possible. It's a very, very good meta right now. There are the top tier decks, and then everything is like kind of like a rogue deck, but there's not like one best deck. Well, I guess there is, but that's for another discussion. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe. Thank you so much for the continuing support, and we'll see you in the next video. Be there or be squared.